All right, all you devils, how we doing today? Sam here with you. It's Thursday, the 6th of June, and of course we're looking at traditionals today. So you guys saw the polling, and it was kind of mixed all over the place. But the euro was clearly of interest, and then a lot of you guys said, "Well, what are you interested in, Sam?" And this is, well, of course, I trade the euro a lot, so I figured we'd kill two birds there. Now, so we've been over this several times. So here I've got an 8-hour. It's interesting now. So the 5 off the low, I think we can all agree we've got a nice clean impulse there. I think there's a pretty strong case to make here that this corrective action is over. Now so here's our swing low, swing high. We've had a very, very, very slight break of the 65. I mean, just a couple of ticks. So it's a bit of I call that a yellow flag. So something to be aware of. I think this count holds up here. We certainly have a pivot here that we can work with that would be a clear spot where we'd want to exit if we were looking on the long side. So it's the 5 down into the A, just as good as the other 5. There's your very clear 3. Now it gets a little tricky down here. So it would appear that we've finished with an ending diagonal. So let's dig in there a little bit. What am I, 8-hour? Let's go to a 2-hour. So there's a lot of chop in here, right? Makes for challenging trading. So it's particularly for a swing trader here. You're getting these very big swings is what I'm trying to say, rather than wings. Okay, so as it looks like, here's the A. Here's the clear ABC into the B. Now note here. So we come from this pivot to this pivot. All right, so it's interesting. It's almost exactly what happened in the S&P. Just you're kind of going, I'm kind of surprised it didn't get there. So immediately you look left and say, what's there? I mean, it could have been, that there's some structure there, seeing some support, resistance maybe. Hard to call it, right? So here's the algo target. So you can look here. Is this a drive trying to get to the algo target so we can see? We know it's high probability that software sold here, and they've got this target down here. But it looks like a competing algo could have dug it out of here, and that's going to be denied getting to that target. Now, they will stay short until they get it or they get stopped out here. So as we get from this pivot here, so ending diagonal like this, so we'd have a contracting. So 1 is the longest, then the 2, 3 shorter than 1, 5 shorter than 3. That's your fairly textbook ending diagonal here. So we got to do it in a series of 3s. The last little drive down here it's a little shaky here. And then you have this very deep, let's go in there. So if this is done here, this is a little tricky here. So if we're done here at this, so you can see the slight break here on the 65 it would appear they're going after the target, but they don't get it. Now, of course, we've got Draghi speaking today, so we have volatility coming to the market. But I think because, look what happens here. So if this is our one wave here off of this low, well, of course, right, that's a very deep 2. And the subdivision, it's a little bit of a stretch. You got to go A, B, C to make that fit. Very deep, obviously, right? So, but technically, we stay, it's an internal retracement to this swing, low to high. We stay internal, and so you look at it and go, it's kind of squirrely symmetry, of course, right? But again, we have how do I want to phrase it? It's not that it's an unnatural reaction here, but we have volatility being introduced to the market because of Draghi speaking and their rate decision. So you got to be careful on days like this. But the count seems to hold up here. So if we go 1, 2. Let's get this up here. So we take the length of the 1, project it from the 2. All right, the proposed 2. What we do, note, where's our high probability zone for a 3? All right, right there. Right where we go. So despite the depth of the 2, we make the high probability zone for the 3. Sell off. Now, note here, we don't threaten. Well, we get deep, but we don't overlap the 1. And then there's a rip higher. So we end up with essentially a double top up here. Goes right back to where we were previously. So you'd have to call that a bit of a failure in the 5, although technically, it's interesting. So we just barely get a new high here, and we just barely avoid a new low here. So Now, coming off of that, so I think you can call this completed as a 5. Now, would we be done correcting that? Well, that would seem unlikely. So let me get that off here. So here's the 5. I know it's a little shaky, but it's there. So there's the 5. So the rip down. Actually, we're gonna have to go to a 30-minute. So right. So this is, you know, it's like, I don't want to say unnatural, right? Because central bankers speaking, it happens so often. But you're getting unusual volatility here. This bar is a bit problematic. So you'd have to look at that and say, okay, well, can I get an Elliott count to make sense here? So if I've got a completed impulse from swing low to swing high, we can get right on that. So let's get to that. Well, here's the 50. Now, not much subdivision here. I mean, I don't even know if I can get anything on the 15-minute. I mean, it's just, no shit. Do I have this wrong? Hang on a second, guys. I might have made a mistake here. Do we get, nope, we don't. Okay, so my mistake here. I'm glad I brought that in here on the 15-minute. Okay, so can you see here? So it appeared that we went up. Jesus, this bar, yeah, can't work. So this has to be interesting. That's going to change our count a little bit. So so we'd have to do it this way. So it appeared that this rip came prior to that sell-off, but going down to the 15-minute. So you'd have, come here. No, I don't want that. Come on. So it would appear that we have to do it this way. So there's the A, there's the B, that's the C. Interesting. So that has to be our 4. So, okay, this is going to change the count because look what's happened here. So now we have an overlap of the 1. So we can't squeeze that diagonal in there. Well, let's back up here and take a look at the whole thing. Maybe I'm going to have to do it this way. So here sometimes going down to these smaller time frames lets you see something you might have missed, and I was about to miss that. Okay, so does that work? So if this is 1, 2, 3, 4, so we don't overlap the 1 now. Here I'm on the 15-minute. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now let's check just out of curiosity. All right, so let's look at our 2 low to our 3 high. Well, between the 23 and 38, Vegas wave holds it. We don't quite get algo target here, so that wouldn't be invalidated. So if we look now. Okay, so do we have a completed impulse? So now I'm going to go from this swing low. Well, so now we are to the 50. I've just had to change the count because, well, you guys saw the mistake. An easy mistake to make. So here we come down for the, is this, Jesus, is this, yeah, I guess we have to do it that way. So let me open that back up again. That's kind of ugly for sure. Right now, again, remember, we have the Draghi speaking here that can create that kind of vol. So ABC implying that this is, so if all of this is good, if we have a hard low over here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, ABC into the 2, so we'd be looking, I know it's ugly. All right, so you've got, well, because of the overlap here, you have to complete here, but the 1, 2 relative to the 4, 5 obviously is not ideal. I think it's until proven otherwise, because this volatility is, I don't know that I'd be jumping on a trade here on the idea that we've gone 1, 2. So this, let's put it into context. So 1, potentially 2. Are we going 3, 4, 5? Let's get that. Oh, we'll go to minuet and we'll put it in, let's go to green. Okay, so if that's 1 and we've got 2 in, which is a little shaky. So you've got, so this is all Draghi speaking. So do you want to trade off of that? I don't just yet. Curiosity here. So how do we look here? Yeah, I mean, you got to pay attention to things like that. So while you have to, if you're trying to get a count on this, well, you got to label something here. So this is, it's possible, right? It's certainly not strong enough. When you consider all the choices you have of where to trade. Is this a formation that you like enough to trade? That wouldn't be the first place I'd go. But if the 2 is in, well, all we're doing is likely putting in the one wave here of the 3 if this is going to hold as an ABC for the 2, and we're going to start. So you'd be anticipating something coming out of here, and then we'd you know, start doing that if we're going to go up and get that true third. So let's push all of this up. So potentially now let's do it this way. So if that's from the low, oh, pardon me, I want this one. From this low to this high. Okay, here's our 50. Here's our probability zone. We know this is our shorthand. Let's see. So here's our shorthand right here for our 1618, 175 window. That's our high probability zone. Now potentially, this almost looks like a channel would be a better fit here. So we've got this. I'm gonna do it this way. Let's go this way and see how that looks coming out of this, allowing for the possibility that if we start to come down again, that we could anticipate some structural support. Oh, well, you can kind of see it here. So this, we'd have this area, but you could really draw it. All of this is potentially an area if we're going to retrace here. So if this is going to go 1, 2, any of this area right in here. Right. So here's the low volumes node around the 1. Right. So you see the little pivot here. So we just bring that over. You can kind of see that setting up as a potential area where if the market's going to come down here and we're going to test this structure again, that could set you up. So this is what you're after. You're trying to get positioned for that. So where are you here? Is this good enough? Well, I wouldn't buy, you know, FX is, you know, as a breakout. So look what happens here. So you know there are stops sitting right here, right? So a little pop here and it's immediately retraced. You got to be careful of those kind of breakouts at structural pivots like that. As often they'll just be a stop run, and you know, market shenanigans will get you in trouble there. So I'd want to be careful here and look for a decent, you can see, God, I'm already on the 15-minute. You've already had the retrace here. So this is for the short-term traders that just got bent over here. So they get, the stops are here. They immediately get stopped. Well, they're immediately underwater, right? So, I mean, pretty decent rip down. That's classic FX, right? So so your stop is sitting here, right? So up they go, run the stops straight down, right? It happens all the time in FX. Just get used to it. It's just the way the market works. So you've got, it's tricky, right? So that's why you got to be really careful about buying breakouts like that. That's a great example. So within that, so what do we do? So, come here. From the low to the high. Right, well, we come down, we're in between the 50 and the 618. So let's open it up a little bit more. So 1, 2, looks a little shaky, right? It's just not good enough. We're on the 15-minute. So I don't know that I'd be jumping on that as a 1, 2. Right? You know, it looks more to me like I might have A, B going in here. So it looks like A, maybe B. Now, obviously, right, we'll see as to whether or not this starts to rip and we break those highs. So these guys, if they stayed with it, right, you know there's going to be stops up here. For those that didn't get stopped out here, well, they're going to be, now they will have adjusted, after this, they will have adjusted their stop to right here. So don't be surprised if you see something similar here, which kind of sets up the possibility that we go up here, bump those stops, and then rip it down for the C. It could be lower, could be here. We don't know. So right now, this, particularly with this kind of volatility with central bankers, you know, flapping their jaws today, I would not be chasing anything in here until this gets some clarity here. What have we got? We've just got a range here from, well, hey, shit, I could do it this way. You know, here's our 50 to this upper range. That's that's 112-ish up to 113. So it's about a full point range there that you're working in. That's a pretty good amount of risk. I don't know that I'd be chasing anything right here. Now, if they put it on sale, so if we come down here and we come back down to maybe test something in this range here where you can see we'd have a little structure. We come down here, now we're putting it on sale. Now I can buy it here with a clear idea of where I'd be wrong. I mean, you know, you got to give these a little bit of room here in FX. In FX you cannot be ultra tight. I guarantee you'll get stopped out repeatedly. You got to give these room to breathe. So if this were to come down here, you might be looking at something like this in terms of the risk reward. So your target would be up here, first target anyway, right? So if this is going to go, if this is the one. if that's the 2, and then we're in the 1, and this is the 1 of the 3, the 1 of the 3 of the 3. Well, this is going to need to shape up a little bit better. This is a roll of the dice. What, you know, I just be careful about breakout trades here, guys. I've just done it too many times. It's very tricky to get that breakout and then for just straight momentum. So if you can, right, obviously, if you can buy them when they're on sale, that's going to look a lot better here. Now, I know market's coming down, so it makes it just intuitively and just instinctively, you go, well, shit, man, I don't want it. It's coming down. Why do I want to buy it? Well, you gotta adjust your thinking there a little bit. All it means is that they're putting it on sale. Now, of course, right, it's always a calculated risk. We could just blow right down and the whole thing gets invalidated, which is why, of course, we got to be very, particularly in FX, you got to be very disciplined about where your stop is. You don't have to worry about not getting filled. You're going to get filled. Might have some slippage, but it's always, okay, what's the risk reward there? So if you look here, what can we get 3 to 1? So if you're a buyer at the golden zone, first target, well, let's use first target here. You're giving it under the 786. That's 4.5 to 1. Now, if this goes 1, 2, and we get a bigger 3, well, you know, here's your bigger 3. Now you're at 8.6 to 1. Maybe. All right, so here would be a reasonable target to take a partial. Right, FX, easy to do partials. Right, so something to consider here, but I wouldn't rush into anything here because of this volatility. Let the market absorb the message from Draghi, see how it responds, and look for a better opportunity than buying here at these highs. Let it come down, see if you can get something decent here. If it gets put on sale, right, then there's an opportunity right there with, well, you got 4.5 to 1 or 8 to 1, depending on what your target is, but sure as hell get a stop on it. All right, guys, back to you in a bit.